Hello and good evening and welcome to Linus Napoleonic Shipyard. So today I just wanted to do a little bit of a shorter video. Figured I haven't really done this. I think I did a short a while back showing some of the ships that we use for immersion, like for feeling more into the battle. So when a ship is damaged enough, we will swap out the actual miniature with something corresponding as a damaged ship. And over time, we've gotten quite a few of these damaged ships. So I just wanted to show some of them off for you guys and give you some ideas of what you could do and what materials to use and so on. I'm also going to show some permanent damage that I had on a diorama, actually the diorama that was shown recently in one of Drakenefel's videos for those ships. Since it was a diorama, I decided to get the damage permanent. I usually don't put a lot of damage on my ships. They're kind of like pristine before moving on into the battle, so to say. That's just a matter of preference, I guess. But I'm going to show you some of the stuff. And these are not only models by me. This is some stuff is made by my brother and so on. Is to to get some variation in there. So I figured I start out with some Frigates, and some of these we're running them as a struck ship, and some of them would be run as a ship that is wrecked, more or less. And we'll just keep them in play until the wind changes, more or less. The struck ship just stays in play indefinitely. Floating around, because of course it would normally not sink unless it was hulled below the waterline and then would take a lot of damage. So let's start out with some Frigates, and this is it was a while ago since I did one of these. The ones we've had, they're kind of held for now, so it was a while ago since I did any of these, but this is for that being a more recent one. So it's basically just a Warlord Games Frigate. Those plastic Frigates from Warlord Games, and with just a piece of plastic painted with on the underside with this semi-transparent green and ink that I usually use. You can find that in plenty of videos, and then with some water texture on top, a little bit of crests picked out. And then, of course, painted. I've drilled some holes in the hull here, as you can see, just to make it look like it's been holed, like a hull by cannon fire. Masts completely broken off at this point, all three masts in different heights, and most of the mast sections gone. Right, they've been cut overboard and sunk and so on. I have some sail here draped over the edge of the ship. And that's a good way to do that is actually I've used rice paper here. I could have aged this some more. It's a little bit white on this one, so probably what I would do if I go over this one again, I would go over and age it and put some more shading on it and so on. Basically just wet rice paper cut to the shape of the sail and then draped, like dipped in water and draped, and then to stick it, to make it stick, and also to give this transparency, like where it's wet. I've actually used super glue, so that's cyanoacrylate glue, a little bit more runny version. And piece of mast section here that's trapped the boat here on the side and so on. Some rope, like rigging, fallen on the deck, destroyed boat and so on. So a little bit of damage, like just showing that this is a ship that is not really in play anymore. Some boats trying to leave the ship there on the side, and more rigging leaving it. So that's an idea how you can do it. Maybe a little bit larger area around it, just to leave yourself some space to create like a mini diorama, just for making it look nice. So that's a ship that is in play, and you could just add, like sometimes we'll have those loose, like on this one, and this is made by my brother, and this has a thicker base and some smoke on it and so on. But you can just add some kind of a loose white flag to it if it's a struck ship, right? So maybe just some of them have those on the masts and so on, but I mean, I could just add that on here and twist it around the mast or so to make it look like a struck ship. So we have some of those strips going as well. And this is another way of doing it. Of course, here he's used one of those thicker bases, a little bit more blue, some mast sections laying around there, more draped over the deck here and over the side. I really like this one, the smoke effect and the holes in the hull and a little bit more darkened hull to make it look damaged. Also, oops, yeah, that happens. So this is just attached with wire, really. Yeah, okay, now I broke it. Great, I'm gonna have to fix that later. But ripped sail and so on, and also that heel, quite a bit of heel here to make that ship look like it's taking on water. It's been hull below the waterline. So that was another example, a really old one that was made a long time ago. This is a wrecked ship. It's also healing quite a bit and it's on fire, right? So we have like a bit of a fire effect going here. Some rigging still there and so on. I mean, we don't spend a lot of time. This is quite a bit of white around this, a little bit too much white than I would use nowadays. Some of these are quite old. Some of these are like 3 years old. But it can show you what you can do with some of maybe your leftover hulls and your mast pieces. We use toothpicks sometimes for the mast if you don't have mast sections and so on. And here's another one. I mean, for now I'm just showing you the third rates. This one has actually taken some critical damage that didn't happen very often. But you see, this one probably would be sinking at some point here, because you see that it's been, maybe it had like an internal explosion, gunpowder magazine got into and it had an explosion. It's going to sink. Quite a lot of damage along the side of the hull here. Some sail floating in the water. Of course, a lot of black smoke coming out of that crack in the ship. But there's also, you can see it has its back broken here. But it's quite nice effect to swap out. So if you have a ship to take a lot of critical damage, you just swap it out for one of these. And usually what we do is this flatter. So that's also making it look different than the models that we're using for the game. And of course, you're not going to be moving them around that much, and you're not as careful with these things. Usually we're not. So then you don't. Yeah, so it looks a little bit different than the higher bases. And here's another one. A bit more work done on this one. I think this was featured on Warlord Games page at some point when they did their feature there on me. And there's a lot of draped sail here, and there's also some actually some dead crew here. That's a matter of taste. Of course, that's not very good if you're playing with your children or something like that. But you could add some atmosphere, some blood on the deck. I mean, these battles were usually quite bloody, right? So blood coming out of the scuppers, right? Another ship with some heel, and here's a mast standing. The mizzen is still standing, has some ratline attached to it, and the main mast has fallen onto it. Some crashed boat on the deck, and again, drilling holes. Using your hobby knife, cutting away. These plastic hulls are great for that, so they're really good for making this wrecked ship. And again, I dropped it, but it kind of holds up here. Well, not entirely, but I guess I'm going to have to do some repairs on this thing since I'm so clumsy today. I'm dropping all these models, but I just wanted to show you guys some ideas of what you could do to, keep the hulls in play. Swap out your wrecked or struck ship. This could be a struck ship as well. Just add one of those white pieces of cloth, like there's also rice paper or just normal paper around the top of the mast there to signify that it's a struck ship and not a wrecked ship. Or in another way you want to mark it. Of course, this, I think, maybe just happened 2 or 3 times where the ship actually completely sunk, unless it's, of course, the magazine exploded. But so this one has been hulled quite heavily below the waterline, and it's of course sinking. So you can see this, just the top showing here. And I've actually used a couple of these different models. I think this was a Turner hull that I used, and I added some other hull here for the lower part and tried to do some coppering. Very crude, pretty quick work, but it adds an effect. It looks like the ship is like sinking. It's showing its coppering here above the waterline with the front, and of course the draped sail, some of the loose line, the shot away guns, and so on. Rigging. Another idea for something for a table, and of course that one doesn't take a lot of space either. So if there's a really busy engagement, maybe you want to have those little bit smaller ones. So those were a couple of third rates. It's not very often that we get a struck or wrecked first rate, so we don't have that many of those, but I brought one here just to show you an example. So this is a first rate hull, and I think this is it? I think this hull is from the kit of the HMS Victory from Artist Hobby. You can't get that anymore, but I thought Turner models and also Wargaming make pretty nice ones. So this one ended up becoming your old classical wrecked first rate or second rate ship of the line. Again, the same thing, like broken off masts, draped sail, pieces of the wreck floating in the ocean temporarily beside it, stuff happening around the site, like make it a little busy. And of course, don't be afraid to like show some damage. This one probably had some part of the stern caved in here as well. So another example, and that's a first rate. Of course, many of our battles we play with smaller ships, so frigates, an older one, very old one. I think this is one of the first. It's just the Warlord Games 5th rate. I think my brother made this one, again with some fire, took in a lot of damage, to the hull, some of those boats, broken off masts. Here's some critical damage here on the side, you see. So that's one of them. We have another one, also quite wrecked. Larger pieces of masts. This rice paper, draped sails, the fin base again. And of course the underside here, since you're not having a magnet on the table, we are also putting some clear varnish or some semi-transparent satin varnish on the underside here, just to protect it. Put it quite layered there. Same idea as the third rates, really. I mean, these are just smaller ships, frigates, and this is the Warlord Games 5th rates. Plastic hulls are really neat for this, because you can just cut into them and drill into them with ease to get the damage that you like. And of course, some struck ones with varying degrees of damage to their masts, just to show some more of the damage that you can do. Hopefully without breaking more models. I'm watching this through my cell phone camera as I'm filming this. Hopefully the sound is going to be okay. But this is like a struck frigate, taking a lot of damage. And here you have the classical Warlord sails. I tried that and then tried to add some damage. I didn't think that turned out too well, to be honest. This is one of the worst looking ones, but it looks damaged. Has a nice stern gallery there that I decided to use. Still some sail and mast standing, but the main, of course, is hanging by the rigging. Some wreckage on the deck and so on. And we have another one, a little bit lighter base. We vary the bases a bit. Over time, this has changed the way we do things. So, and as I said, none of these represent the hopefully the skill level of any of us these days. This is more older hulls, but they still work. They still have the purpose, and we haven't really gotten around to making new ones, since they work so nicely just for your game, your battle game. I mean, it looks nice on the videos, like the battle reports we do and so on as well, I think. So here's the foremast that's gone by the board. And another one with the main masts. And then here's some more damage to the bowsprit. This should be hanging here. There's some repairs needing to be done here. The bowsprit has been broken here. But some damage to the mizzen. Shot off a little bit higher up and so on. A little bit less damage to this hull. So maybe a quicker strike. And of course, we also have the smaller ships like the brigs and so on. That would have to represent all the smaller ships. This is a one that I found on Etsy, I think. So this is not like it has had this look already. I think I added some mast and stuff to it, but it was already a sinking one. And this ended up on a thicker piece of. I think it looks better with the thinner pieces for the sinking ships, since you want them to be on the same height as your actual sea mat here. But so this is not, I think it's not a Warlord Games one, or maybe it's one I failed at. I can't remember if this one was a boat one. It's too long ago. But the same thing applies, like make a mess, drill holes, use the paint to show where the damage is, maybe your hobby knife to cut like splinters. You could use glue, stretching glue to make it look like splinters and so on. Here's another one, bowsprit broken and about to go into the ocean. A little bit too much white again around here. I did that for a little bit too much white around. I would do less, even if all these areas like the sail and everything is touching and would be like reacting to the water. I think it looks a little bit too busy. Like also on the table, if you're looking a little bit further away, it should be a little bit less busy, since it's probably not having a lot of wave. And there's not a lot of waves, but it works. I mean, it's another one that we can use. And here is none with the same idea as that it's about to sink. It has some kind of critical damage, and its back is broken. See, it's about to fall to pieces and sink. But it just adds a lot of flavor to your tabletop. Of course, none of this I spent as much time as I do on my models that I do nowadays. So maybe it would be time at some point here to do a couple of these, but with more time spent. Feels like these are only for battle, and you don't use it the whole battle. So it feels, even for me, a little bit of waste of time. I mean, just looking at them at the table from a distance like this, it's good enough. It represents something that is not in the game anymore. Your ship has been damaged enough that it's not really in play. And wait, there's a piece came off it. I don't know what that was. So, I mean, this is enough for that, I guess. This is probably one of my worst videos ever, I feel like. But I just wanted to show a little bit more quick here without spending too much time editing and all that stuff. Give you guys some ideas of some of these things that you can use on your tabletop to create more a sense of a battle and varying degrees of damage, without actually making your models modular or having like all the time damaged models on your tabletop. I saw a guy do some really nice stuff, so I figured that was a little bit of the inspiration for showing some of the stuff that we've been using, and maybe give you guys some ideas for your own tabletops and what you would like to have on your table. This is one of the ones I'm most happy about, and which I spent probably some of the most time on. Of course, There is also, and I'm gonna have fill that in here. There is also some of those ships where you would have the more permanent damage, and that's in this diorama that I made of HMS Speedy and El Gamo, which I did last summer, so the summer of 2025. And it was a lot of fun, and I actually at that time was doing my sales in Papyrus, and Papyrus turned out really nice for showing off some damage, like hold sails and so on. I find that a little harder in the Silk Span. However, the Silk Span looks a lot better as a sail, like a functioning sail on the model. So I probably go with Papyrus or painted Papyrus if I do damage ship right now, and I wanted to have a lot of shot holes and rips in the sail itself. I think it looks really nice, as you can see on this model. And these ones, they were the ones used, and some of these photos have been used by Naval in his little video about the actual engagement between the HMS Speedy and El Gamo. And if you haven't watched that, I recommend you watch it. And also, of course, I got the hull of the Vinseo, and that's my most recent longer format video, where I do the entire build of that one as the HMS Sophie. Not completely the Sophie from the book, since it has the hull has a little bit more guns, and some of the things I got a little wrong, but it's an attempt, and I think it's in the spirit of the HMS Sophie of the books, the Aubrey Maturin series of books. So I guess that's it for this one. A little bit shorter, a little bit simpler format. I hope you feel this is okay. Let me know in the comments below what you think about it, and what you, if you would like to see some more detail where I can show you a little bit more. Maybe I'll do one of these things and I can work through it and show a little bit more of my ideas. And if you have some ideas of your own, just post them below. Next one, probably a battle report. Actually, I'm working a little bit on looking into a campaign made by James Dix, and I find it pretty interesting. So I've started to do a little bit of solo play, where I have a little bit of a thing that I made with the help of AI, I have to admit, but where a thing where that I let the decisions a little bit be of what the enemy does, be a little bit out of my hands. So I'd like primarily play my own side, and then I let the AI decide a bit what the opponent does. It's far from done, this thing, and I'm not sure even if I would ever release it, but it is a little bit of fun, and I would like to show some of that off, so probably that will be in the next video, possibly. But that's this video, and I guess until the next one, I wish you fair winds and following seas.